Hello and welcome to AWS On Air. If this is your first time joining us, we're happy that you're here. My name is Brian Terry, and I'm a senior solution architect working on the marketplace team. And I'm here with my good friend Kyle, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, I am a senior security solution architect focusing on threat detection and incident response, and I'm still looking for a easier way to say that in such a short way. So if you got suggestions, please let me know. But I am excited. This week is finally Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. We've made it. Maybe you're already at Saturday if you're in the other regions of the world, but I am excited for Friday. It actually ended a little sooner for my daughter. Her school, there's a gnarly snowstorm coming in, so she gets to celebrate Friday a little earlier. So I'm jealous there.
Well, I'm super excited. This is actually my first show of the year, but this isn't the first show on AWS On Air. So if you're not familiar with AWS On Air, well, AWS On Air is a show that you can watch weekly for the latest news and the latest updates on AWS Air on Air. And you'll actually get to see some very cool technology, or just me and my co-hosts just talking about random things like weather.
We're really good at talking about random things too. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed or known this, Brian, but I've been a curator of the finest dad jokes for probably the better course of like 2 years now, 3 years. But do you know where you store a dad joke?
Where do you store dad joke, Kyle?
A database.
That's
Yeah, that
that's
just
a really
happened.
good dad joke. Yeah, it did.
Well, I have to say, I think the next part of the show is one of the highlights of my week, aside from hosting with you and getting to hear about all these new services and programs that we're releasing. But let's go with what's new with Jeff Barr. Hit it.
All right. Well, I guess you have to push that button twice sometimes, Kyle, before things actually happen. So I am Jeff Barr, VP and Chief Evangelist for AWS, coming to you from Seattle as always. So what I do is every week I look at all of our launches and I choose just a couple that catch my eye. And it was a real challenge this morning because we actually had 40 launches since I did this for the last time. So here are a couple of things I picked out today that I thought were interesting that you would probably find interesting as well. The first one is an awesome update to Amazon Forecast. This is actually a pretty cool service that I don't think as many people know about as they should. And it's a time series forecasting service. It's based on and powered by machine learning and designed to work with your business metrics. So to use this, you gather up your relevant historical data. That could be your sales, your web traffic, your inventory counts, and so forth. And this has to be, of course, date and time stamped in the form of some kind of a time series, because this is forecasting things that are going to happen over and within periods of time. And in addition to that historical data, you can mix in other things that you think might be helpful to the model. So that could be stuff like product descriptions and promotions and maybe even local holidays. So you upload all this data and then you turn it loose and it's going to actually go ahead and do its work. And what that does, it's going to look at all the data, it's going to find the key attributes, and then it's going to train a custom machine learning model based on that. It then generates forecasts that you can either visualize in the console, you can download, or you can access them through the API and then maybe plug those into another program that maybe updates orders or staffing levels or things like that. Well, with Forecast, it forecasts within 6 different predefined domains, and those are retail, inventory, workforce, EC2 scaling, and web traffic, and then kind of general business metrics. And it also supports custom domains. So none of this is actually new. This has been around for a bit, and lots of customers are already using it. And one thing that you might find interesting is this is based on the same technology that we use inside of Amazon to do forecasting. So what I find awesome is that regardless of the scale that you run at, you get similar benefits from this ability to do ML powered forecasting. So all that's existing, that's been there. But the cool thing is we've gone through and we've added, remember earlier I said you had to plug in data about holidays. Well, we have all that data and we've added it in for 251 different countries. So now you can generate forecasts that are specific to a particular country that are going to take into account seasonal variations or some kind of variation due to a particular holiday that might be unique or peculiar to that country. So get better forecasts with less work. You can read the original blog post and you can read the what's new to learn more about that. All right, next cool thing is some more integrations with AWS step functions. I sure hope you know about step functions already. And I get this kind of weird sense from talking to people that we're not doing as much to share them as we maybe should. But step functions is a visual workflow service. And you build these awesome workflows that can orchestrate across over 11,000 different AWS APIs that are scattered across 250 different services. We launched this in 2016. And we've, of course, like any service, we've made just a ton of enhancements since then. And I'm not supposed to play favorites and don't tell the other services, but I do think this is actually one of my personal favorite services. So what's new to this is we've made more integration with 35 more AWS services. Some of those are EMR serverless, the AWS clean rooms, AWS IoT Fleetwise, and IoT RoboRunner, and 31 other services as well. We added support within existing services. We added support for another 1,000 different API actions from DynamoDB and Athena and some other services. If you don't know about this, put it on your must-learn list and give it a shot. I think you're going to find that it's going to help you to build apps that are going to, you'll write less code, the apps will be more scalable, and maybe you'll even save some money in the process. Again, blog post and what's new to help you learn more about step functions and step functions integrations. Okay, last launch, this is actually a couple launches I pulled together, kind of cheated just a tiny bit. So you might know Amazon Connect, which we launched in 2017. And this is a service that lets you build a customer contact center in the cloud, and with the goal of helping you to deliver great service to your customer. Again, like every one of our launches, we do that first launch, the we call the minimum lovable product. We launch that, and then we listen and we learn, and we keep adding feature after feature after feature to it. We've done just many dozen probably of enhancements to Connect since we launched it. But let me tell you about 3 that we did just last week. So in situations where your customer connects with you, and then maybe they state their challenge or problem, whatever, and say, okay, I need some help with this. And on the call center, you collect up all that information, and maybe you need to get back to the customer, or maybe they have to call in a second time to get more information to help out with progress. So there's this part of Connect that's called Amazon Connect Cases. So this helps when you have these multiple conversations. And what is new here is that we made Amazon Connect Cases, which is just part of Amazon Connect, of course, made that available in 5 additional regions. We also enhanced Connect Cases so it supports VPC private link. And so what this actually means on a functional basis is that if you have applications that need to get to that Connect case data, you can access that data without using public IP addresses or the public internet. And the third thing is we've added fine-grained access control to the real-time metrics that Connect creates and makes available. So you can use both tags and tag-based access controls to manage access to that. You can look at my original blog post, and you can read the 3 what's new items to learn a bit more. And last but for sure not least, a week or 2 ago, I got this pretty good sized package in the mail, and this gigantic book showed up. Hope you can see this book, and it's kind of hefty. You can see the spine. It's a heavy duty book. And this is the 2nd edition of a book. It's called Serverless Beyond a Buzzword by Thomas Smart. have not had the chance to actually read it in depth, but I've checked out a couple sections. It's detailed, it's helpful, and it's heavy duty. There's just about 700 pages of I think really good content in here. It introduces the concept of serverless. It reviews and the adoption strategy. Goes through the things you have to think about beyond just the code. So the finances, the security, maybe challenges in training your staff and DevOps, and just a whole lot more. Lots of great recommendations for how you and your org can go about adopting serverless, and then a bunch of good case studies as well, and all written by someone who's an experienced practitioner who has been there and done that. We'll drop that link to that in the chat for you. So those are my picks for today. As always, you can visit our What's New page. You can subscribe to our feed. You can read the AWS news blog. And if you want to keep up with me on kind of an almost daily basis, would love it if you give me a follow on LinkedIn as well. That's what I've got for you today. So back to you, Kyle and Brian.
I love hearing about those new features and releases. Step functions are cool. That giant book is even cooler. You know what's even more awesome? How about
what's more awesome?
Dad joke.
Oh, okay. Let's do another dad joke.
Why couldn't they catch the unauthorized user?
Why is that, Kyle?
Because they ran somewhere. Yeah, that just happened.
Yeah, it did.
So forecast seems like a pretty cool opportunity to understand, be able to measure growth and expansion, but also kind of like stress test things. And one thing I need to really dive into more is DynamoDB and step functions too. So thanks, Jeff, for reminding me about that. But now I'm really excited about these new service releases. And actually one of them is not a service, but more of a program itself. And coming to us live from, I believe it was Barcelona.
Yes, it is Barcelona.
Barcelona. We have some pretty awesome folks coming up. So let's go ahead and get over to talking about integrated private wireless with our new friends from the Integrated Private Wireless Service Team. Let's hit it. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
And welcome.
Hi, Kyle.
How are you?
Hi, Brian. Yeah, I'm very good.
Well, the world knows who Kyle and Brian are, and let's not forget the other Brian, our awesome ASL interpreter. But who are you? What do you do? And what are we here to talk about today?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm Umar Chaudhary. I'm a senior manager at the EC2 Telco product management team, and I've got the coolest job in AWS. That is to make AWS the best place to run 5G, both public and private. And today I'm going to talk to you about a new program that we have just launched in partnership with the communication service providers, which we also call telecom operators, and that is called Integrated Private Wireless. And I'm going to talk to you about that program and why we're doing it, and what's so cool about that program. So if you look at like the industry and different industries like the automotive and different industrial segments, right? You will see that like now they are using more and more advanced techniques like sensors and robotics and other mechanisms where there is a lot of data usage. So essentially what happens is that their usage and their need for throughput and the network stability has really risen. What it means is that like now they actually need cellular private networks, and cellular private networks are more secure. They offer a much better quality of service as well. So, however, when they deploy these cellular private networks and essentially are telecom service providers and different companies, different ISVs as well, they deploy it for the enterprise customers. And there are three basic issues that come in there. Number one is that like there's a high degree of complexity, because a lot of time these are very bespoke networks. They require huge efforts in designing even before the networks are put in. They also require huge system integration efforts. then they require upfront investment. So it means that there is capex heavy. That is really a killer to the innovation. And then lastly, there are why do they actually need the private networks? It's because they need new applications, new use cases, whether on edge or in the cloud or wherever. However, they need new applications. And now they are consuming these private networks in one way, and then they are building those applications in another way. So there's no continuum there. So what we are doing in partnership with our telco operators and telecom CSPs is that we are trying to solve for these challenges. Number one is we are solving for the complexity. How we are doing it? First of all, our teams of solution architects, they are working with the CSPs in pre-integrating, pre-validating the solutions. It means that like the complete solution, which is like a radio and a core and a device and a user application, but really pre-integrating those solutions so that the upfront or ongoing system integration effort is minimized. Then we are trying to make it, we are making it easy to consume. So digitally discover, digitally consume, and then digitally manage as well. And then we have built a CSP portal on which like the customers can go in, they can actually see the solutions first, they can contact the CSPs as well. And I go through the journey or a customer journey in a bit as well. And then what we aim to do as we go further is that we aim to make these solutions completely pay as you consume or pay as you go. That means that like AWS services are pay as you consume. However, the whole solution, that's what they're working with them. And the last thing, if you think about it, is that like now you have your connectivity, and then in a VPC, in AWS Virtual Private Cloud, and you have access to all the rest of AWS services there, whether they're IoT, analytics, AI/ML, or whatnot. Now it really spurs the innovation so that our customers can build more and more use cases, and they can consume the use cases which are built by our ISV ecosystem as well. So other partners who are building those use cases on the edge and in the cloud as well.
And that actually leads to a question we had in the chat. Sorry, Brian. Someone asked, which companies are currently offering cellular private networks? So I'm assuming the ones that we partner with, and I believe you have partners that we're working with now to do this, right?
Yeah. So as part of this program, we have launched it with 5 partners. So T-Mobile US, Orange, Telefonica Tech, KDDI, and Deutsche Telekom. So these are the 5 partners that we have launched. We have launched with them. AWS has been doing private networks with CSPs and other ISVs as well for a long time, for over 3 years. However, these partners are very specific and special because they are really acting as the complete solution provider, as a managed solution provider. So they are taking that whole responsibility, or an end-to-end responsibility of not only providing that solution to the customer, but also managing it as well.
Very cool.
Awesome.
I just want to double click on one thing that you said. You mentioned that there is a AWS portal in which you can actually use it, and basically, can you talk a little bit about that portal and how it works?
Yeah. So so the way what we are doing is that we really are aiming to make it super simple for our enterprise customers to discover all of the solutions, right, which are private network solutions and edge applications as well. Very easy to discover at one place. So that's what CSP portal is. So when you go to CSP portal, and you can actually access it on our web page, we have just launched it, right? When you go there, you can see what are the connectivity solutions. And at the moment, there are like these 5 partners which are offering it. But you also see that what are the other over-the-top applications which are available. At the moment, we have put like 3 as the first iteration. And then when you go further into it, you contact the. So let me take you through the journey of a customer experience, right? So let me share one slide with you. Can I share the slide? No?
Yeah, go ahead and get it pulled up, and we'll go ahead and, with the power of sharing, because sharing's caring, we'll bring it up.
Yeah.
And we just want to make sure that we got it all full screen so we can take a look at it
Okay.
in all its glory. There's a little white box in the middle of your awesome font. You could go ahead and just click that guy away. Wrong box.
Okay. Can you still see me? See my screen?
Yep. Well, go ahead and share your slide again.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So you think of it this way. Now, the first step is that CSP portal. So the customer explores the integrated private wireless solutions, connectivity solutions, and also the edge applications there. Then it basically there is a contact button. Okay, let's start your journey. You create an account, and then you basically start your journey, and then you provide the basic information like, okay, what is the size of the network that I want? What are the different locations that I want? What is the industry that I am in? And that information basically goes to the CSP, which basically generates a bill of material, right? And then CSP generates it, and then the customer can review it. That like now
Yep.
this
And just
private
to
solution.
clarify, so CSP being the communications service provider, right?
Absolutely,
Okay.
communication service provider, or our friends would know it as telecom operators as well, right?
Okay.
So now think of this one as a connectivity solution that can be hosted in a region, that can be hosted on a local zone, right? And it can be hosted on a customer premises on outpost, or in case of a disconnected completely environment need, it can be hosted on AWS Snow devices as well. So that BOM, a bill of material, is actually shared with the customer. Now the bill of material will have more components than AWS as well. It would have radio, and it would have other stuff as well, right? Now, then the customer accepts the proposal after discussing it with the customer, and then the CSP and our communication service provider sets up the invoicing, procures, gets all the solution ready, right? And also from AWS, and then ships it to the customer. Takes complete responsibility for it, integrates it as well at the last step, and then manages it for the customer as well. And what we are going to bring down the line is a completely automated order management capability as well. And that's something that we are currently working in. As Jeff was saying, that like we release something and then we incrementally develop on top of it. So the order management capability is something that will be bringing. The pre-validation of like this solution is very important part of it, because that really drastically reduces, and we hope that like it will reduce the system integration effort. That means the time to market is significantly better. Okay, so that's what the journey that I wanted to share.
Now, how long would you say this journey takes, or would it vary depending on the size of the network, or the location or the industry? What does that journey look like as far as like time to production?
Yeah, so this journey, I think that depends on the use case as well. Like if it's a simple use case, let's say if you take an example that like it's already an application, it's pre-built, then it is a matter of like the whole process can be from inception to deployment, could be in weeks, right? In few weeks it can be done as well. Of course, like there are certain steps because it still needs to be shipped. If it is an on-prem deployment, if it is a cloud-hosted deployment, then you are looking at days, hours and days, right? So that really varies a lot with the on specifically the use case as well.
So it sounds like we're taking something that otherwise would have a lot of logistics and overhead administratively, and allowing it to have a quicker time for value. Because when you say you order the the stuff, I'm picturing these large trailers with giant cell phone towers that look like trees, but it sounds like it's a little more simplified for the customer than what that is.
Yeah, the whole aim is that, and that is where we are working closely with our CSP partners to hide all this complexity from the end customer, because the end customer, which is the enterprise, they only care about like what is it going to solve for me. Not that like it has all the cool stuff, which is good and cool. However, that complexity needs to be hidden. So that's the whole aim of, and that's what I said, the pre-integration and pre-validation efforts which are required.
Too cool. And so earlier we mentioned that a lot of you are actually in Barcelona this week. And what's going on in Barcelona, Spain?
Oh yeah. First of all, Barcelona is an awesome city. It's a city of Gaudi, right?
And
so like
why weren't we invited?
That is a very good point. Yeah. So each year in Barcelona, there is a conference which is the largest conference for telecom in the telecom world, which is called Mobile World Congress. So Mobile World Congress happens every time at the end of February every year. So there's like more than 100,000 people actually attend it. So we are in Barcelona. So we have actually launched, AWS has a great presence there. We have a whole area where we are showcasing a lot of like our demos and solutions, not only in the private wireless area but in other areas as well. For integrated private wireless specifically, we have two demos, one with Orange and one with Telefonica, that we are actually that are on demonstration there. A lot of customers and our CSP partners will visit there, and then that's what we are doing in MWC Barcelona.
That's too cool. And it also sounds like you all have a booth. I mean, you mentioned the demos, but if someone wanted to walk up and say howdy hi and talk more about integrated private wireless, they can.
Absolutely. We have actually an area which is at the south entrance. So as you enter into the MWC, you go upstairs, and then the whole area is AWS branded. And then there is a specific section, the demo section, which is branded with IPW as well this year.
Really cool. Well, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous that Brian and I are not in Barcelona right now.
I remember to invite you next
7
time.
inches of snow coming out. But thank you so much for your time and talking to us about integrated private wireless. It sounds like a really cool program that is available for our customers. And you're right, you mentioned enterprises, they don't want to necessarily have to worry about the logistics and the big equipment. They just want to be able to consume it, right? It sounds like this is the way to go about doing that, especially as more devices become wireless. And if we think about how factories are even going from the old methodologies and sensors to IoT as well, I'm just excited to see what this does for our future.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Right. Until next time.
Wow.
And that's really cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. Excited to see that, they take something so complex for organizations to set up and kind of make it kind of an easy button. Just go on a portal and then you get a wireless private network.
I'm just thinking of like the logistical things that it just offloads to, because I'm not kidding. So between here and California, we have these large cell phone towers, and I'm sure it's not, cheap and easy to transport those, assemble those. But then, if you're an organization that wants to be able to develop, you're a startup that wants to be able to develop on this type of platform, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and that's important. I mean, because, big enterprise customers can use this technology, but again, startups can too, that traditionally had problems obtaining this kind of infrastructure.
Well, in keeping the theme of telecommunications related things, let's go and talk about AWS Telco Network Builder starting now. Hello.
Hey, hello guys. How are you doing?
Good. How about you?
I can't complain. I'm in lovely Barcelona, so it's an amazing start of the weekend. Yeah, no, I left before the snowstorm in Seattle, so hopefully you guys enjoy the snow for me.
Oh, thankfully I don't have to worry about those types of hills. Well, the world knows who Brian, Kyle, and Danny, our awesome ASL interpreter down there, are. Eamon, what do you do? Who are you? Why are you here?
Well, I mean, I'm here actually to introduce AWS Telco Network Builder. I'm a solution architect, part of the EC2 Edge product team, mainly focusing on everything edge automation and network management.
What would you
And
say
today,
is so like
yep,
so I'm just gonna stop you there because we always hear like edge computing, edge automation. What is it that you focus on when it comes to the edge? And if you had to give me like a 15-second elevator pitch on what is edge, what would you say that is?
right. So Edge within the context of AWS is all our capability that bring the ability to run workload closer to the customer, right? So through the outpost, through the local zone. So the intent is bring the compute closer to where the customer is. So then you can have like applications that are highly demanding, such as a hologram, connected car, and so on. So everything that is closer to the edge, think about it closer to the customer.
Awesome. Thank you for unpacking that for me, or as Brian would say, double clicking on that for us. So with AWS Telco Network Builder, what is it that it's solving for consumers, customers, builders?
Yeah, absolutely. So Telco Network Builder, really freshly off the press, the service that we launched roughly 3 or 4 days ago. So it's addressing the complexity and the problematic that the CSPs, right, the communication service providers, so the likes of Orange, Telefonica Germany, the Verizon of this world, the Dish of this world. So it's to help them actually run workload that is specific to a network on AWS. So TNB, or Telco Network Builder, it will automate that ingestion of those network function, all those components that you need to run a network, to run a 5G network, or any type of network ultimately, into AWS infrastructure with the minimal impact and as simply as possible. So that's what Telco Network Builder helps our customer with.
And
Oh,
you
super
said that
cool.
the service was just released 3 days ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one, congratulations, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Two, this is probably like the first time a lot of us are hearing about this. So that's really exciting too.
Yeah.
No, it is. I mean, it's a new service. We've been working with partners and customer for the last few months as well, and we have actually a very nice demo at MWC. And I'm certainly encouraging anyone in Barcelona to come and say hi. I think it will be very nice to see an automation of what we call an end-to-end orchestration of an entire network, but also the edge application. So certainly looking to get the feedback from everyone here at Barcelona.
Sounds like a very interesting feature, and I, like the rest of this audience, is probably asking the same thing: is how does this work? Essentially.
Well, let's go through it. Actually, what I want to do, part of today, is really show you how Telco Network Builder works and how easy it is. So we're going to use mainly the AWS console. So I'll just explain how we actually ingest network function, what a network function is, how do we define a network, or what's the recipe to actually instantiate a network on AWS, and how we manage that network on AWS. And together, we're actually going to, on a few clicks, instantiate an actual 5G core network, and we'll see how relatively simple I think it is.
I feel like we're all about to hop onto a telecommunications ride, and this is very exciting.
Telco is it's the week of telco, right? So that's the whole world bleed telecommunication this week in Barcelona, but also hopefully everywhere else. Everything that we can do through the GUI, we can also do via API, and we can also do via CLI, and it's also available via SDKs. So the cool thing about Telco Network Builder, it helps the customer even use their existing system, but also help them build on top of Telco Network Builder, right? So it's not just a point where you stop in Telco Network Builder. It's really something that enables them to continue to innovate, so they can actually have new features, new services faster for their end customers. And also they remove all the complexity and all the operational inefficiency that they have to manage like multiple networks coming from different vendors and so on, right? So we help them increase the operational efficiency. And by increasing the operational efficiency, at the end of the day, they help their end customers because there's features that are available much faster. So if we look at Telco Network Builder, can you just confirm that you're able to see the screen?
We can. The
Perfect.
work from home bingo card pile has been filled. We can see your slide.
Brilliant. So AWS Telco Network Builder is available under the management and governance. So if you click on management and governance, you would be able to see AWS Telco Network Builder. And this will be the landing page. So that's the main landing page that a customer will see if they don't want to use the service. There's a couple items that I want to highlight. So there is a dashboard within Telco Network Builder that give you a view of what what you're using the service for. What are the network that you're deploying? What are the network function that you have available? What are the network service? What are the network definition that you have? And then whether they're successful or failing, so you can drill down what's failing and what's succeeding, and look at the network function that are part of one network that you deployed and built. So let's have a quick look at the dashboard. So in this dashboard, what it tells me that I have defined one network that could be, for example, a 5G core running in New York City, or one that is running in Madrid, or one that is running in Paris. And then I have 10 network function. So network builder has a function catalog, which is helping me ingest the network function from different ISVs. And then I have one network defined, or one network package that is defined. And the network package ultimately is a recipe that say, hey, I want to install and I want to manage 5 or 6 network function. I want to deploy them on AWS, and I want to deploy them on a given infrastructure. Yeah, go ahead.
What is so I see like networks, that's kind of self-explanatory. What about like function packages and network packages? What do those really consist of?
Absolutely. So let's go on the function package. So here, let's look at the function catalog. So in TNB, I can ingest different network functions. So the network function are component of a telco network. So they're packaged in a certain format. So it's really ultimately a zip file. It's a CSAR file. So it's a YAML file and Helm chart. So you package them into a zip file and you ingest that into Telco Network Builder. In the realm of CSPs and telecommunication, whenever we say network function, it ultimately that component that do X in the network. So it could be even just a router, right? So for example, a virtual router, it's routing, but you can have, how do you install that router? How do you define the path to manage the lifecycle of that router, for example, on AWS infrastructure? How do you upgrade the infrastructure? How do you upgrade the software? So that's the network function is ultimately all those artifacts.
That's cool. So the function is actually like what it is doing within the network itself.
Exactly.
There, simplify and say router, switch, hub.
Let's say, like, to take a very simplification, absolutely. But then when you start looking at the traditional telco network, like if you want to run, for example, 5G network, you have like all kind of network functions. You're going to have something for signaling. You're going to have something for user data. You're going to have maybe some radio access component as well. So all those components for network function, the Telco Network Builder help you instantiate and also manage the lifecycle management operation on AWS. And by lifecycle management operation, it's actually that deployment on AWS, updating the infrastructure when you need to update the infrastructure. For example, you want to go from one Kubernetes version to another, or if you have a new version of the software. For example, if the ISV that provide that network function has a new version, right? So for example, right now in 23, maybe in Q2 of 23, there'll be a new software package that gives new features. So you will take that new version of that network function, and Telco Network Builder can help you update that in an automated manner and have a process that help you manage throughout the life of your network deployment.
Too cool. So is that why sometimes our phones will say, network update or network settings updated?
Not really. So it's a completely different world. But
I'm trying to understand your world better.
Hey, no. I mean, that's a completely different world. But see it here is really that underlying infrastructure that helps you make that call. So for your phone to work, there's like all kind of a lot of complex system. And what we do is we simplify that, right? So we're bringing that simplicity where we're providing them with the hooks into AWS infrastructure, so it's easy for them to run those networks. So it's simple, easier to manage, easier to operate.
This is running. We have a question.
Not necessarily a question. I feel like this is just kind of a what do they call it?
It's cool.
They're like a yes. This is awesome.
We're really excited. Actually, we've been hearing quite a lot from our customers, from partners, and so on. And I think it's quite exciting. But we're also really excited to see how people will use it and how it will grow with the industry. But that's great.
Yeah, well, I think I found some interesting about this is like the way that it's built. It looks like it integrates into other AWS services, right? Because you're running these networks, and you're going to need these other services like management and governance. You're going to need maybe some Lambda functions or something like that to do something cool. And it kind of lends itself in that direction. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and what you kind of see customers using this combined with other services?
No, absolutely. So if I can hold on your question for a second, because I still owe you an answer on network, what a network package is, and then I'll bridge it back on how you can also integrate with the rest of the AWS services. So the network package, it's really just where the customer will define the network. I'm just going to show in essence the YAML file. At the minimum, it's just one file that has the description of the network function that they want to deploy, but also a definition of the infrastructure in a language that the customer, that the communication service provider, and the telco software vendor understand. Okay, so this is really TOSCA, or Topology and Orchestration Specification Cloud Application format, something that the customer knows. We're basically bringing them that ability to use something they know to define AWS resources. So that network package, just to give you the answer, so it's something that you can create templates of. So when I want to deploy a network in New York, if I'm customer XYZ, and I want to also deploy that network in LA, chances are it's exactly the same recipe that I need to apply in New York, and then I need to apply in LA with some differences and some small modification of the configuration as well. Well, with the telco network builder and the network package concept, we also have the ability to templatize that. So they can actually just reuse the same recipe, but make it even easier. So that's just to address that question, Brian. And then in regard to the integration with the rest of the AWS service, it's actually a pain point that a lot of our customer were giving us when we started building Telco Network Builder. A lot of our customers were telling us, yes, there's complexity, simplify it for us. We want to operate on the cloud in an easy manner. We have those challenges, help us with those challenges. But one of the challenges was regarding the CI/CD processes. And with an AWS, obviously, with Telco Network Builder, it's easy to integrate with the CI/CD tools, right? So you can have your own pipeline to actually ingest network function, ingest all the software images, all the configuration that you have that are specific for a given customer, but also what you're receiving from your software vendor, change them in a certain way, and then have that updated automatically. So then you can have task and have steps that are taken in an automatic manner with Telco Network Builder. It could be something as just an update, right? So our customer had been asking for that, and Telco Network Builder integrate fairly well with obviously the AWS DevOps tool.
That's really cool. And I say that for multiple reasons, not just because, well, it's really cool, but more customers that I work with, especially in like the security point of view is, how can they simplify deployments, but also remove humans from having to need to access the AWS environment, but just deploy everything as code. And that really aids for like disaster recovery, business continuity planning too. And so the fact that they're able to use their, existing tooling to be able to deploy to this just shows that there's many scenarios where they're able to do that too. But then I'm sure there's also configuration checks and best practices that may come out, more requirements that an organization may have for these types of deployments too.
No, and I'll add a little bit to that actually, Cal, because there's a few things that Telco Network Builder does. It also, like I've showed those recipe, but there's also lifecycle hook integration as part of the way you define your network package or function package. So that gives the ability for a customer to adapt the DevOps practice directly within the Telco Network Builder automation flow. So they can do their own little thing, like something like when I want to instantiate a network, I want to update an inventory system, for example. So it's really cool because a customer can actually run their own set of script as an environment as part of the automation flow for, let's say, instantiating a network.
Now, Eamon, I'll be honest. So it wasn't until this week learning more and more about telecommunications and meeting you and the folks that are doing integrated private wireless that I started learning terms about, telecommunications. If someone wanted to be able to look at like a glossary of definitions and be able to compare them to something, say, similar to something we'd have a mental model of, say like routers, switches, hubs, firewalls, etc. Is there any resources that you could point us to, or something that we might have to reference?
I invite you to go through the user guide. So the Telco Network Builder user guide has a section that describes a little bit what the network functions are, what the network package are, also how it fits within an overall automation flow.
Awesome.
So that provide a bit of an introduction to at least the telco world. There is additional item, I think, has a common feed. Maybe we can share additional link, but as a starting point, the user guide will be helpful.
Too cool. So that's nice to know that there's like a glossary of functions there to kind of pair to what they do. Thank you for that.
Do you guys want to see how simple it is to actually create a network? So how do you feel about that?
We definitely have time to do that. So let's do that.
Brilliant. So I already have the ingestion of the network function, but just to really show it, it's just a click. You create function, you choose the file, you click next, and that will upload your network function into the function catalog. You do the exact same thing for the network package, right? All of that also could be done with external system via REST API or through SDKs. So we also have integration with partners, and we're demonstrating that here at NWC. So now I want to, let's say, deploy a 5G core network in Paris. I have that template. All I do is I click create network instance, and let's say this is going to be
no big deal, just deploying a 5G network in Paris.
Well,
it's like I do this all the time.
That's what we want to do, right? So, and that's all. This create the definition now. So we have that network being instantiated, or not defined. I have this definition now that I am ready to instantiate whenever I want, because a customer wants to carry traffic 2 months from now, or maybe a week from now. So as they're building the network, or how they're shrinking the network, or how they're modifying the network in different shape or form. So let's instantiate it. I said earlier, there's the override, right? So we can make some parameters. So if I deploy in Paris, and maybe I want to deploy in Nice, I want to change the way the VPCR, I want to change my subnetting, maybe I have different IP ranges. So all of that could be changed as a set of input, but let's keep the default one for now. And we click instantiate, and the magic will happen in the background. So Telco Network Builder is going to create all the underlying infrastructure. It's going to deploy all those network functions, so that AMF, that UPF, UDM, all of that will be deployed automatically without having to do anything other than just monitoring and seeing if it succeeds or if it fails. So that will take a little bit of time. So just for the sake of simplicity, I had one that was instantiated previously to show what steps go through the deployment. So what it will do, it will create the infrastructure that is necessary for running that telco network. It will do some configuration that are specific to a telco network. In this case, really, this is just specific for the multi-IP assignment or multis. And then it will instantiate each of the network function that we have in our network package. And that's as simple as that. So that's our goal, to help our customer get that simplicity and really increase the speed at which they have new features and new capability available for their own customers.
All right, we got to make it like more difficult for you to be able to do that. Like you're gonna have to, reverse your mouse buttons, wear a blindfold, and then do this again. That's a good test. That was a little too simple. And then there's a telco network to be utilized, just like that.
Yeah, and really, like, I know that sounds cool, but I think the CLI and the REST APIs are even cooler, and that's where our customers, especially the advanced user, are the most excited with, because you can actually build, right? So building on AWS becomes even more fun when you have a tool like Telco Network Builder, because you can just make so many cool things, and that's where the fun is.
Yeah. So would you say this is more so for the end user or like the telco provider?
So this is more for the CSPs, right? So this is communication service provider. So the like of Orange, Telefonica, Dish, Telstra, Spark New Zealand, etc. So it's for those network operator. It's to help them operate that network, right? So it's really for them.
So if it's for the network operator and we're simplifying things for the network operator, how do the consumers or the end users really benefit from this? Like I have my ideas, but I want to know from the professional here.
Yeah. So the network function. So each of those network function has a set of capability, right? So when there's a standard or when there's a new features or innovation that is made available by one network function provider, how do you make that available faster for the end customer? So this is where TNB helps those network operators. So the network operator will say, maybe I need to increase the ability to have a hologram prioritized versus like a voice call, right? Because a voice call doesn't need as much quality of service, but the hologram does more quality of service. So you would need maybe there's and here I'm going on a tangent, but there is feature and capability, let's say at the signaling level. So maybe you need a new version of the AMF. Then you would ingest that network function into function package. You'll have a new version of it. And then you will go through an update of that network function. So that feature is available for the end customer.
Well, that's a great way to put it. I don't know what any other way to put it, but that sounds, as a consumer, because I don't think, I would ever want to be responsible for telecommunications, but enabling the telco providers the ease of expanding their networks or controlling their networks. It sounds like it's just adding additional functionality to their infrastructure, and in turn, we're benefiting it as consumers too. Why is
that's where we are.
telecom so cool?
We're trying to make it cool, but certainly.
And you're there in Barcelona. We all know that.
I'll be in Barcelona.
Be at the conference too. What's the conference called?
So it's the Mobile World Congress, and it will be from Monday to Thursday. I'll be most of the time at the booth. So people are interested in coming and seeing how TNB is being used, or if they want to see it, even want to try it, and I can guide them as well through it. If they want to also see how we do an end-to-end 5G network, and how there's a really cool application, a cool holographic application that we're also showcasing. So I'd certainly.
Is it a hologram of Brian and Kyle there in Barcelona with y'all?
You know what? Maybe we can do something like that. It wouldn't be impossible, but it's actually what we're going to be doing. It's there's basically a holographic application that will be running on a network that has been built by AWS.
That's really cool.
And you basically call a device via your phone, and you appear inside that device in 3D.
Crazy.
I know.
Just to think, Brian, you could call me and I'd just appear.
I know. We just talked about it. It's just so simple. It just happens every day.
Right? No big deal. Eamon, thank you so much for your time today. Again, this whole telecommunications thing is so fascinating. And I just, got to drink from the fire hose this week to learn more about telco. And, I think this is going to be one of my little side projects that I learn more about.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting us to speak and share what we've been doing. And if there's any question, please don't hesitate. Always looking to also get feedback from customers and partners. So thank you.
All right, Eamon. Thank you very much. Well, Brian, I have learned a lot.
I have too.
Especially about communications.
Oh yeah, especially about me being delivered to you in 3D.
So, everyone, thank you for joining us this week. And a couple things before we leave for the week and enjoy our weekend. Is it still snowing outside? It is still coming down very hard. We have a survey. The first 50 respondents get a $10 AWS credit. So make sure you fill out that survey. It lets those that need to know understand how awesome Brian and Kyle are, as well as Brian down there, our amazing ASL interpreter, and Danny, who's taking a break at the moment. So let's give a round of applause for our awesome ASL interpreters. But last, and certainly not least, Brian, I have one more question for you.
This is another dad joke, because I'm prepared.
Why was beef stew not accepted as a password?
Why is that, Kyle?
Because it wasn't drunk enough.
And
that's what I got for the rest of the week.
Yes.
Everyone have a wonderful weekend. Be safe. Have fun. Check us out on demand if you haven't seen the links of previous episodes. We have amazing content every week where we talk with our service teams, feature releases, and witty banter, as always. So thank you, everyone, for your time. Have a wonderful weekend.